Welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody's doing well. For this video, I have prepared some fun facts about sharks. Let's get straight into the video. So first, I just have a few basic facts about sharks. Sharks have been living in Earth's oceans for 450 million years. Sharks predate the dinosaurs by 200 million years, and there are more than 465 known species of sharks living in our oceans today. Some of their bodily features haven't evolved, but to date, sharks have managed to keep the majority of their distinct physical characteristics. The most notable being the torpedo-shaped shark, but not to be underestimated are the various other conspicuous qualities, including the sizable filter-feeding sharks, those with a flattened bottom, the deep water, slow-moving ones, and of course camouflaged sharks. The largest known species of shark, the megalodon, might have reached a maximum length of 67 feet, but these sharks have been extinct for 16 million years. The smallest shark is the dwarf lantern that only grows to 6 inches, and the largest is the whale shark that grows to a whopping 41.5 feet in length. Sharks have 8 orders of classification depending on their physical characteristics. Their primary taxonomy reads as follows. They belong to the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, and subphylum Vertebrata, and the class Chondrocythes. I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's okay. I will have to stop there because there are multiple orders which include raisin skates and other sharks, and of course there are many different species of sharks as well. The body of a shark is very distinct. Most of us know a shark when we see one. So I'll be breaking down the different body parts and explain their functions and why they're important. Sharks belong to a family of fish that have skeletons made of cartilage, a tissue more flexible and lighter than bone. They breathe through a series of 5 to 7 gill slits located on either side of their bodies. Shark's skin is made up of a series of scales that act as an outer skeleton for easy movement and for saving energy in the water. The upper side of a shark is generally dark to blend in with the water from above, and their undersides are white or lighter colored to blend in with the lighter surface of the sea from below. This helps to camouflage them from predators and prey. Sharks are also different from bony fish because they have eyelids. Another thing that makes sharks different from fish is their scales. Sharks have dermal denticles, also called placoid scales, which are smooth and help them move through the water quickly. These dermal denticles are even covered in enamel called vitrodentine, and they also include dentine in a pulp cavity, which are extremely comparable to teeth. Other fish have flat, rough scales, and unlike fish, sharks can only swim forward. That is because their fins are stiff and cannot be controlled by muscles. Vortices and whirlpools are often formed behind the placoid scales as a shark swims, and this helps the sharks swim efficiently. The fact that sharks are completely covered in tooth-like structures may seem alarming, but not only are they resourceful when it comes to swimming, but they also form a barrier of protection. Interestingly enough, however, while the dermal denticles are arranged in a pattern on the shark, they do not grow as the shark grows. Instead, the shark just sprouts more placoid scales as necessary. Therefore, age estimation cannot be determined by the scales of the shark, although the ages of other fish can be calculated in this way. The fins of a shark are easily recognizable and immensely important. Most sharks have 5 different types of fins, while some sharks only have 4. These types of fins include pectoral, pelvic, dorsal, anal, and caudal fins. Pectoral fins are at the front of the shark behind the head, and sharks use these fins to lift and steer them while they swim. Behind the pectoral fins are the pelvic fins. These keep the shark stabilized while it swims. In male sharks, pelvic fins are also used as claspers, which are necessary for the reproduction process. Dorsal fins are the ones that most people are familiar with. These fins are often seen when a shark is at the water's surface. Oftentimes, sharks have a first and second dorsal fin. These fins are also used for stability during swimming. But for some sharks, the dorsal fin is not enough to completely stabilize them. Therefore, the anal fin is present to provide additional stability to the sharks that possess them. The anal fin is located between the pelvic and caudal fins on the bottom or ventral part of the shark. When it comes to the shark having the ability to propel itself through the water, they utilize what is called the caudal fin. This fin, also known as the tail fin, has an upper and lower lobe that, depending on the type of shark, can vary in shape and size. The upper lobe of the caudal fin produces the majority of the shark's thrusting abilities. The tail fin is one of the most important parts of the entire shark anatomy. There are different types of shark tail fins. Because of all these different types of fins, sharks are able to maneuver swiftly through the water while also remaining stabilized. Sharks are one of the strongest and most efficient swimmers in the entire ocean. Many sharks have spines on their dorsal fins. Spines are included in the shark anatomy as a form of protection. For many sharks and most rays, spines are included in their anatomy to defend against potential predators. Although many associate sharks and rays as venomous, antagonistic bullies, defense mechanisms such as spines are used precisely for that defense. Spines are not used aggressively. Of course, like other fish, the shark anatomy includes gills to aid in respiration. Located on the side of the shark's head are 5 to 7 gill slits. In order for gas exchange to occur correctly, water has to consistently flow over the gill slits. Once the shark allows water to enter their mouth, it goes through the pharynx, over the gills, and finally leaves the actual gill slits. In some sharks, spiracles are present as first gill slits. These slits are located behind the eyes, and they are used to send blood through a separate, unique blood vessel immediately to the eyes and the brain of the shark. Although this feature of shark's anatomy sounds very useful, they are not present on many sharks. Spiracles are mainly found on sharks that typically dwell near the seabed, otherwise known as sedentary sharks. The faster swimming sharks usually do not possess this feature, and if they do happen to have spiracles, they are most likely small in size. Now, when it comes to the body shape and coloration of sharks, you may have noticed that the bodies of sharks are typically rounded and tapered at both ends. This type of shape causes them to have what is called a fusiform body. This body shape is exceedingly helpful because it minimizes the drag and it enables sharks to swim efficiently while using the least amount of energy possible. The coloration of sharks is enormously unique and important. Not only is it yet another form of protection from their predators, but it also aids when capturing prey. This coloration is a type of camouflage called countershading. When viewed from above, the dark side of the shark blends in with the depths of the ocean. When viewed from below, the light ventral side blends in with the ocean's surface. This enables sharks to slip past predators and sneak up on their prey. And now I'll discuss internal shark anatomy. If you were to look inside the body of a shark, you would notice many of the same organs that humans have. Both sharks and humans have stomachs, although human trash can often be found in a shark's stomach. That's not a pun, but it could be. Sharks have a spleen, a pancreas, a rectum, and a liver. There is a huge difference between the human liver and the shark liver, however. The liver is usually the first thing one would notice when peering inside and seeing the shark anatomy. A shark's liver can take up approximately 25% of their total body weight. The liver is detrimental to the shark, and it has two purposes. Fatty reserves are kept in the liver, thus causing it to be a store of energy. In addition, the liver actually keeps the shark from sinking. Because the liver stores oils that are lighter than water, the density of the shark's body is lighter, thus supplying the needed buoyancy for the shark. Due to this particular function, the liver is considered to be a hydrostatic organ. The skeleton of a shark is entirely composed up of cartilage. It is a bit alarming, but sharks do not have bones. The fact that sharks have cartilage instead of bone is extremely beneficial. Cartilage is lighter than bone, and this helps the shark stay afloat. Because cartilage is also extensively durable and flexible, sharks have the ability to have tight radius turns. The skull of a shark, which is also comprised of cartilage, can vary in shape. In fact, there are numerous ways in which a shark's jaw can be connected to the cranium. The method of which a shark feeds determines how the jaw will attach to the cranium. The shark's cranium is very, very special and unique. Around a shark's head is an entire sensory network called the ampullae of Lorenzini. Each ampulla is composed of a cluster of sensory cells that ultimately enables sharks to detect prey that may be hiding in the sand, and even possibly notice changes in the water's temperature, pressure, salinity, magnetic fields, and mechanical stimuli. The lateral line is another sensory system that works simultaneously with the ampullae of Lorenzini. Together they make up the electrosensory portion of the shark's sensory system. Neuromasts are structures that make up the lateral line, and they alert the shark whenever there's movement from prey. The lateral line is similar to ears because it detects low-frequency vibrations. Vibrations from a distance can be detected easily by the lateral line, and the direction of water flow can also be determined by the lateral line. Because sharks use their sense of sound to find their food, ears are needed in addition to the ampullae of Lorenzini and the lateral line. Sharks have an inner ear that is used to pick up acceleration and gravity in addition to sound. Sharks have exceptional eyes that enable them to see acutely, even in low light. Behind their retina is the tapetum lucidum. This is a layer that is comprised of silver guanine crystals that reflects light as it exits the eye. This is the part of the shark anatomy that enables sharks to have the ability to see in low light. The eyelids of some sharks are certainly not typical. There are sharks that have what is called a nictating membrane, or a third eyelid. You've probably seen the third eyelid when your dog sleeps. It's the red eyelid that peeks out from under the main eyelids. This feature is important because it provides a substantial amount of protection for the eye. When sharks get relatively close to a particular object, or when they're feeding, the nictating membrane closes, thus acting as a shield for the eye. Some sharks, like the great white shark, actually have a set of muscles that roll their eyes into the socket whenever the eye needs protection. The eyesight of bony fish pales in comparison to the sight of a shark. The shark anatomy allows them to see in dim light, and they can detect the contrast of light and shadow, and their pupils can dilate and contract. The nostrils of a shark are on the external ventral side of their bodies. Some species of sharks have barbels, otherwise known as whiskers, near their nostrils. A shark's sense of smell is unbelievably keen. For example, they can detect a drop of blood hundreds of feet away. Certain chemicals with a concentration as low as 1 part per billion can be detected by the nostrils of a shark. It's important for sharks to have this many features on their body to help them find prey. Most species of shark eat fish, crustaceans, mollusks, plankton, krill, marine mammals, and even other sharks. All sharks have multiple rows of teeth, and while they lose teeth on a regular basis, New teeth continue to grow in and replace the ones they lose. An average shark has 40 to 45 teeth in up to 7 rows. Sharks lose teeth regularly and can go through 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. Because sharks don't have a literal jawbone for the teeth to attach themselves to, they are connected to the skin that covers the jaw cartilage. And when a new tooth grows, the skin maneuvers the tooth into a proper position. Although an extensive amount of information has not been found about sharks, we do know that they have taste buds. Some sharks spit things out after they have bit into them, and this is most likely due to the fact that they do not like that particular taste. Sharks have the reputation of devouring almost anything and anyone, but they are certainly pickier than many people realize. The shark anatomy includes an intestine that is used for digestion. The shark's intestine is shortened, but it also spirals so that it takes up the least amount of space possible. When a shark needs to get rid of waste, it utilizes its kidneys, genitals, and cloaca. The cloaca is an opening that the kidneys and genitals empty into. Now, sharks live in every ocean on the planet. Sharks have adapted to living in a wide range of aquatic habitats at various temperatures. While some species inhabit shallow coastal regions, others live in deep waters on the ocean floor and in the open ocean. Some species, like the bull shark, are even known to swim in salt, fresh, and brackish waters. Most sharks are especially active in the evening and night when they hunt. Some sharks migrate over great distances to feed and breed. This can take them over entire ocean basins. While some shark species are solitary, others display social behavior at various levels. Hammerhead sharks, for instance, school during mating season around seamounts and islands. Some shark species, like the great white shark, attack and surprise their prey, usually seals and sea lions, from below. Species that dwell on the ocean floor have developed the ability to bottom feed. Others attack schooling fish in a feeding frenzy, while large sharks like whale and basking sharks filter feed by swimming through the ocean with their mouths wide open, filtering large quantities of plankton and krill. This wouldn't be an in-depth video without information about how sharks mate. Now, sharks mature slowly and reach reproductive age anywhere from 12 to 15 years. Sharks have been known to reproduce asexually, and this is known as parthenogenesis and has been documented in a variety of different species. Mating begins when the female shark releases chemicals into the water to stimulate the interest of a male. Some sharks, like hammerheads and great white sharks, have complex mating rituals that include shows of strength and possibly dancing. Female sharks may choose more than one mate, but once a mate has been selected, sharks begin copulation. Male sharks have paired reproductive organs called claspers, and female sharks have an opening called a cloaca. Fertilization occurs when a clasper is inserted into the cloaca and sperm is injected into the female. Often the male will bite onto the female to hold themselves during mating. This can be a difficult process, with both sharks often ending up with wounds. Once the embryo is fertilized, sharks have 4 forms of reproduction. There's viviparity, which is when the fertilized eggs are hatched inside the female's uterus and the pups are fed by a placenta through an umbilical cord. Now, another form of reproduction is oviparity. This is where sharks will deposit fertilized eggs in the ocean, which will hatch outside the mother's body. These egg sacs are called mermaid's purses and usually contain a thick, leathery membrane. Oviparous sharks will often just deposit the eggs along the reef bed and move on, while others will stay and guard them against predators. The third way of reproduction is called ovoviparous. This is where shark eggs hatch inside the uterus. However, the pups are not fed through a placenta, and they will eat unfertilized eggs and other pup fetuses to survive. This is what's known as intrauterine cannibalism. So basically, the first shark that hatches will eat the other eggs and the other pups that hatch. And this is to help strengthen the gene pool. And the last method of reproduction, as I've said before, is asexual. Though a very rare form of breeding that has only been observed in captivity with a hammerhead shark, female sharks are able to reproduce without a mate. Pup litters vary in size depending on species and type of production. Sharks are a K-selected species, which means that they reproduce for quality and not quantity. They tend to have smaller litters, but with genetically stronger offspring. As I said before, sharks mature slowly, and their gestation periods are actually pretty varied. It can range from 5 months to 3 years. Frilled sharks have the longest gestation period. They're pregnant for 3.5 years. Not only is this the longest confirmed pregnancy for sharks, it's also one of the longest pregnancies of any animal. It's important to understand the reproduction behavior of sharks because it helps us to understand how the mass killing of sharks threatens this species when they can't replenish their populations fast enough, and this makes conservation efforts a big challenge. And here are just some random fun facts about sharks. The oldest known species of living shark is the goblin shark that has been around for 120 million years. The second oldest is the frilled shark that has been around for 80 million years. The oldest known species of living shark is the goblin shark that has been around for 120 million years. The second oldest is the frilled shark that has been around for 80 million years. You can measure the age of a shark by counting the rings on their vertebrae. Most sharks never sleep because they have to constantly pump water through their mouth over their gills to breathe, or they will die. Sharks have an amazing sense of hearing. They can hear prey up to 3,000 feet away, and their ears are actually located inside of their heads. Scientists think sharks may be colorblind. However, they have eyes similar to cats and can see better in dark and murky waters than other fish. Sharks' eyes are located on the sides of their heads to give them a wider view of their surroundings. Some sharks living in frigid waters can heat their eyes with a special organ in their eye socket so they can hunt more efficiently regardless of the temperature. Sharks living deep in the water tend to have light color eyes to help them attract more light, while sharks living closer to the surface have darker colored eyes to shield them from the light. Sharks rely on electroreception to navigate the ocean and notice prey. Sharks can move both their lower and upper jaws. Sharks whip their prey around back and forth to break off large chunks of meat. You've probably seen this in a slow motion play of whenever a great white catches a seal and shakes them back and forth. Sharks have the thickest skin of any animal species, and some sharks have skin that is 6 inches thick. Sharks have the largest brains of any fish. Sharks communicate through body language. Some common communications involve zigzag swimming, head shaking, hunched backs, and headbutts. Sharks do not have vocal cords, so they make no sounds. That is why they're known as the silent killers. Large sharks live longer than smaller sharks. Size also determines where a shark hunts. Smaller sharks tend to hunt along the ocean floor, while larger sharks hunt in the middle and by the surface. Sharks have very few natural predators. Killer whales, seals, crocodiles, and larger sharks will occasionally eat sharks. The biggest threat to sharks is humans. The youngest species of sharks are the hammerheads, which evolved 20 million years ago. Bull sharks can live in both fresh and salt water. Nurse sharks are the laziest sharks. They rarely migrate and eat less than most sharks. They also do not need to move to breathe like other sharks. Most sharks hunt alone. However, some species, like scalloped hammerhead sharks, hunt in packs. Basking sharks also rarely travel alone. Typically, they travel in pairs, but have been seen in schools of 100. Great white sharks eat an average of 11 tons of food a year, though they can go as long as 3 months without eating. Great whites can jump out of the water up to 10 feet to catch their prey. Blue sharks are the most endangered species on the planet. Blue sharks are highly coveted for their fins, used in shark fin soup. Lantern sharks use bioluminescence, making them glow in the dark. They use this trick to attract mates and confuse their prey. Angel sharks can ambush their prey in 1/10 of a second. Thresher sharks use their tails to slap their prey to death. Bamboo sharks don't swim. They use 4 different fins to walk across the ocean floor. 6-gill sharks can have litters of 100 pups. It's possible to place sharks into a trance with tonic immobility. When a shark is turned upside down, they experience a sensory overload and become catatonic. Shark attacks are extremely rare and account for 4 fatalities every single year worldwide. Whale sharks are not only the largest species of sharks, but they're also the largest fish in the world. At 40 feet long, the whale shark dwarfs the second smallest shark, the dwarf lantern shark, which is on average 6 to 8 inches long. It has been estimated that the bite force of a great white is up to 4,000 psi. For comparison, a tiger generates about 1,000 psi of bite force. Tiger sharks are named the garbage cans of the sea, and for a good reason. Researchers have discovered many odd objects inside their stomachs. These objects can include tires, gasoline tanks, and license plates. Hammerhead sharks' oddly shaped heads, called cephalofoils, aren't just for show. They're equipped with electrical sensors which make hammerheads superior hunters. In many species of sharks, the females are larger than the males, but the male snaggletooth shark is twice the size of the female. And just in case, I found some information on what you should do to avoid a shark attack or what to do to get out of one. First, if you see a shark, just try to stay calm. Don't thrash or scream, just turn around and try to get out of the water and tell everyone else to get out. Sharks can pick up vibrations and smells, and most of the time they can't see you, so the more you flail around, the more sharks will want to come and investigate. So it's actually best if you just slow down your movements. Fast movements give off the signal of prey, and it's also best to conserve energy for your survival. Every beachgoer should have an evacuation plan, which includes knowing where the closest hospital is. Just think in your head what would happen. If someone you love got bit, what would you do? Don't be paranoid, but have a procedure. Think about how you'd get out of the water, then think about the chain of what would happen next. Most shark bites are on the limbs, and when a shark's mouth hits a swimmer's arm or leg, it's bound to sever an artery. Shark bites are not smooth, they're jagged, which makes the wound worse. And the more jagged the wound, the more it will bleed, so it's important to know first aid. If there's a belt available, you can use a belt to stop the bleeding. Try to swim with a group of people or pair off with at least one other person. Fight back if a shark begins attacking. Fight them off using quick downward punching motions. This is to let them know that you are not easy prey. Most sharks do not like the taste of humans, so they most often just take a bite and then swim away disinterested. Although attacks on humans can be deadly, a shark is more likely to avoid humans, and experts say humans would do well to do the same. This has not affected the negative perceptions people have about sharks. That doesn't mean sharks aren't dangerous, but we need to remember that if they weren't sharks, would we accept some of the things that are done to them? We wouldn't. People think of them as evil and unworthy of the same degree of respect that we give other animals. And that, my friends, is speciesism. So why should we care what happens to sharks? To demonstrate just how important sharks are, I've got some information on what happens to our oceans when shark numbers decline. Research has shown that massive depletion of sharks has cascading effects throughout the ocean's ecosystems. As apex predators, sharks help maintain balance in the ecosystem. They help remove the weak and the sick, as well as keep the balance between other competitors. Preying on the weakest individuals also strengthens the gene pools of the prey species. They sometimes scavenge the sea floor and eat the dead carcasses they find. This helps prevent the spread of diseases. Through intimidation, sharks indirectly maintain the seagrass and coral reef habitats. Their presence helps regulate the feeding behavior and patterns of prey species, which prevents them from overgrazing. For example, turtles are the main prey of tiger sharks, and they graze on seagrass. Without the tiger shark in the vicinity, turtles will spend all their time grazing on the best seagrass, and over time the habitats will be destroyed. With their numbers decreasing, we've seen a decline in coral reefs and seagrasses. Without competition from sharks, larger predatory fish like groupers feed on herbivores, and without these herbivores, the macroalgae expands and the coral can no longer compete because the algae dominates. Rays also tend to increase in populations when shark numbers decline. Rays end up eating more and more mussels and deplete their numbers. So you can see sharks are a vital part of our ocean's ecosystems. What will the health of the oceans look like when such an important group of animals have been destroyed? Do we want the destruction of sharks in the ocean to be a legacy we leave for our children? And if you're wondering what you can do to help sharks, I'm about to tell you. The best thing you can do to help sharks is to live a vegan lifestyle. This means not consuming or using any part of a shark's body. Sharks are primarily killed for their fins to make shark fin soup. This barbaric practice involves sharks being pulled out of the water, having their fins sliced off, and then being thrown back into the water. The sharks fall to the sea floor and die horrible deaths, all for a product that is neither important or necessary for human survival. Shark fin soup has assumed a cultural value, but this is no reason to continue to slaughter these magnificent beings. Unfortunately, people kill sharks for their unique skin to make shagreen, which is a type of felt sandpaper, and also various leather products. So if you think about it, if you've ever had felt sandpaper, it's very possible that you touched what was once part of a shark. People also use shark liver oil, or squalane, which is used in various skincare products and supplements. There are plant alternatives to this oil, which comes from olives. Shark cartilage is also sold as a supplement for joints, but it can also be substituted with plant alternatives. Neither shark oil nor shark cartilage have been proven to have any significant effectiveness on health. Humans kill around 100 million sharks a year. That means for every single person killed by a shark, humans kill 25 million sharks. Many species are already near extinction. Sharks have survived for 450 million years, but they may all be gone within the next decades. By decreasing demand for products made from sharks, we can help sharks. We can help end the banquet of extinction.